Okay guys, thank you again for joining us this week. This time we're going to be talking about some of the challenges and some of the constraints that are happening when women get involved in leisure and things of that sort. So let's go ahead and get started on this. So one of the main things we can talk about is gender leisure constraints. And these are the things that we're not allowed to do in activities because of gender reasons. And the book has a really good example of a little girl, and she wants to go fishing with her family, and not her family, her dad and her older brothers. And every time they would go fishing and do things together, and she wanted to go as well. But the father was always like, no, you can't come along, and you can't do this and stuff. She thought for a long time it had to do with the age, but when she actually confronted the father and said, you know, why can't I go fishing with you? I want to go fishing with you. The dad said it was because, quote, you can't pee off the side of the boat. So, you know, this is a little bit of kind of like what's considered, quote, a barrier that doesn't allow women to do that. One of the other very common things, too, is when I used to work at NASA Johnson Space Center, one of the barriers or constraints that happened within the women was using the restroom, and they actually had to make something completely special, and they had to adapt to get past this barrier to allow women to get engaged in that activity. Of course, going out to space, not all of us can, but that's just an example of a constraint that doesn't allow women to do something. So there's also a lot in these constraints. There's also a gender socialization, which tends to teach us that society expects us women to act a certain way. So now we have on top of everything the constraints, which is actually like a physical constraint by the father saying you can't pee on the side of the boat. You also have society's constraints. And the activities that society, quote, allows women to do, they really want you to do things that are ladylike and the ladylike and very smooth. And so a good example is, you know, if women or little girls want to get involved in activities, you can do gymnastics, you can do ballet, and these are things to show a very graceful side and very graceful movement to you. You know, heaven forbid, you know, the girls want to do something a little bit more hardcore. So from a little age, we already get taught that we're to do these sweet, sensitive play with dolls and things like that versus, you know, going out with the boys and going fishing with dad. You know, another really good example of this is Boy Scouts versus Girl Scouts. And I knew when I was a little girl, I wanted to do this activity, this scouting activity. And when I talked to my parents about it, they said, okay, great, we can do Girl Scouts for you. And I had seen, you know, talked to some other classmates of mine, and these, you know, people get to go camping and they get to do all these awesome things and they get to hang out and do wilderness hikes and stuff. And I was really excited. So when I looked into the, quote, Girl Scout, I didn't see that. I saw selling cookies every year. Don't get me wrong, Thin Mints are my thing, you know, but there was no activities for girls really to do. And any of the activities that we did there were really group stuff, but it was at home or not leaving far, not camping, not anything exciting got to do. My brother got to go on a 50-mile hike through the wilderness when he was a Boy Scout. I didn't get to do that. And that's another example of, you know, we just need girls to do more gentle moving things. We can't really have them out and, you know, doing things where they could hurt themselves. So that's a little bit of a situation that we have as little kids that we see from an early age. So how do we adapt? You know, what we do is constraint negotiations. We see that there is a constraint. We know there's a barrier that's holding us back. So what we have to do, and a lot of women do, is we find ways around it. You know, one good example is we have adaptive equipment. We may not be able to use the typical male equipment, but we could find something that adapts for us. You know, we modify our plans, we modify the schedule, we change it so that we can do what we want. Also, we save money so that we can afford to do it the girl way or do it a little bit different. So there are ways that you can adapt to these constraints, but one of the biggest things is that one of the biggest restraints for us is one done by society, and that is basically the time restraints for when we have kids and stayed home. That's almost like a barrier for us. We can't go out and be free, and we can't really do as much stuff of leisure activities because we now have kids. And as we've shifted in life, as women shift in life, we now have other roles that we do and we are responsible for. And not good, not bad, it's just a change. And we're going to talk about life cycle changes later on in this class. But these are different constraints, and we have to find ways to adapt. So how do we women adapt to having kids? And the answer is we do a lot of activities that pertain to the kids. So what we'll do is we will do, hey, let's go hang out with our girlfriends. They've got kids the same age. Girlfriend Lola, she has a swimming pool. Let's go hang out with her at her house. So we women get an opportunity to sit on the side of the pool, chit chat and talk and have time spending it with our friends. But at the same time, we have to, as women, we have to double dip and have an opportunity, to have the kids play as well so that we can play as well. That doesn't happen as much with the males. You don't hear a bunch of guys getting together and they're going to do man stuff and, hey, you bring your kids over and we're going to, we'll let the boys go play in the backyard while we sit out on the porch and have a couple drinks. Not that I'm saying that that's a bad idea. I think it's a fantastic idea. What I'm saying is it's just not as common. And if you were to say that, if you hear a group of guys going to get together and kick it in the backyard and watch the boys play in the backyard as they hang out, it kind of makes you just kind of, oh, okay, that's different. Not good, not bad. It's just how society has trained us to view things. So, well, what we want to do is, the thing is mainly, is not that society only does this to us, but us women, we do this to ourselves. We really have a guilty feeling to us, and we kind of have to say, we say to ourselves, oh man, man, it's Friday night. My girlfriend invited me to go out tonight. I'd love to go, but I got to stay home with the kids. And I only get to see them Monday through Thursdays for 2-3 hours. And I really feel to be a good mom and A, have society tell me I'm a good mom, B, tell my other female friends that I'm a good mom, and for myself that I'm a good mom, it's best if I stay home and take care of the kids and literally put them to bed and maybe read a book or something, but really stay at home. So we guilt ourselves into doing this because we've been raised that this is the way it's done. Once again, not good, not bad, just showing you how society has kind of put up a barrier for us of what we women can and can't do for our leisure time and what society says is acceptable versus what we say is acceptable. So, one of the very interesting things that was continued on in the story was that the little girl, said, the one that wanted to go fishing, she later said that she just kind of understood that this is just the way it is. Her brothers would let her go play in their treehouse and do a couple of boys thing, but she got to the point that it was this unearned privilege to get to hang out with dad all day and fishing and get to build these beautiful stories of I caught a fish this big. These boys get the opportunity to build this relationship and build these memories with their dad that we women, I guess we just it's understood. It's not a privilege that we get. And that then becomes invisible to us because we accept it. We just say this is the way it is. Once again, not good, not bad, but we just kind of need to be able to examine that a little bit. So one of the things that I want to discuss with you guys about too is when women make the effort or make the dare to do a masculine thing or do something that's considered a guy's leisure activity, society kind of goes crazy. A really good example is motorcycle riding. I have a girlfriend of mine that, used to love to motorcycle ride, and she enjoyed it a lot. And when she approached the idea of doing it, and she grew up in a motorcycle family. Her father rides, her brothers ride, and so she was born into this family. So when she brought it up to her family, like, hey, I'm interested in riding too, everyone in the family just said, no, you don't ride. This is not a motorcycle thing. And when she started asking questions, they were like, well, this is just, why are you interested? And she goes, well, it looks cool. You guys spend time together. It looks like a lot of fun. And then they're like, well, this is not what girls do. This is not, she's like, well, I want to do it. So whenever women go into this activity that's considered a male activity, or rather not a female activity, you have a lot of society. You have resistance from society. Society is going, nope, this is not what you do. This is not appropriate. No, ma'am. Second one is family. Your parents, you're going to be scared that they're going to disapprove of it. They're going to shake their head and go, I expected more from you. This is not really what you should be doing. Why are you wasting your time? That's one of the most common phrases we women hear is, why are you wasting your time? And of course, you also get unwelcome by that community. So when my girlfriend reached out to the community and said, hey, I'm interested in motorcycle riding, everybody was like, whoa, this is not really what you do. We're not comfortable with this. This is not, you know, what you do. And she actually got pushed pretty hard, and she had to really pretty much fight for that spot for a good year till they started saying, you know what, she's cool. She can be accepted. I'm going to give you guys a personal example of me. I started learning how to play poker myself about 7 years ago. And I started learning myself at home, and I kind of learned the different opportunities, the different methods and stuff like that. So when I first spoke to my family that I was interested in playing poker, my dad was very disappointed. He said, that's ridiculous, you're going to waste money, that's gambling, gambling's dangerous, you shouldn't be gambling. And he was very disappointed with me, you know, and he didn't really want me to do this, and it just didn't look like, he says, this is just not something, quote, you should be spending your time on. And then I got involved with a poker league. And to let you guys know, the poker league that I was a part of is a non-money poker league. It is literally you gain points in a tournament to go to different trips. And as you gain your points, you can go different places. You can be accepted to different poker. Of course, they play on the side as well. They pay for cash. They can play poker. But I was happy learning how to play in this league. You know, so when I told my father that this league, there's no money being exchanged at all, he still did not approve of it. So I continued to push ahead, and I learned how to play poker. And my families and my friends found out I played poker, they were a little bit hesitant about it. But as my parents, which is one of the biggest barriers in this, is your parents as a woman. But as I got to be a better and better poker player, you know, I got more accepted by my family about it, and they were like, more comfortable once they also found out I wasn't really using money, it was a point system. And then when I first started playing poker, a lot of the guys were not happy to have a woman playing poker. So I got a lot of evil glares, I got a lot of little stink eyes, you know, a lot of guys like, what's she doing here, under their breath, or they'd be like, oh, you know, so it was almost darned if you do, darned if you don't, because as a woman in poker, if you're a bad poker player, then you get a lot of, what's she doing here? Oh, she's wasting our time. This is a guy's activity. But if you're a good poker player, it's like, she's just here taking the money. She's just using her looks. She's just, you know, she doesn't even know how to play. So interesting enough, you know, I purposely made a very clear-cut rule for myself when I started playing poker that I would purposely never, ever date a poker player. And the reason I chose to do that was because I didn't want to be seen as a dating/sexual object to these men, but I wanted to be seen as a partner. I wanted to be seen as a fellow player in the game. So I got asked out on dates, and I got asked out to go, you know, hang out, you know, after the game and stuff like that. And I purposely chose not to do that because as a woman, we're so sexualized and we're seen as such a sexual person that, you know, I didn't want to have that reputation in the organization. I wanted to be seen as, oh, Eve, she's a really good player. Oh, wow, she's cool. So I have stuck to that rule for the last, you know, 7, 8 years because I didn't want to have that reputation. And I've seen a lot of women, they go on a date with 1 or 2 poker players, they're now seen as a sexualized object and they aren't treated with as much respect. Same thing happened to this female with the motorcycle community. She purposely, her and I had a discussion about this, and she says she's purposely chosen not to date in the community, even though they have a lot in common. She doesn't want to have the reputation of the easy girl, or, you know, she doesn't want to be seen as a woman, but she really wants to be seen more as a fellow rider. So these are some things that, you know, women that choose these activities, they have on their shoulders and they have to consider it. And they really, for women to be able to be involved in these activities, they have to be willing to shake it off their shoulders. They have to keep moving forward. They need to focus on seeing the event. As I told you guys, I highly recommend they don't date or get romantically involved with some of these individuals so that they can be seen as an equal and be treated with respect. So these are a couple things that they have to do, and they have to be able to, quote, negotiate these constraints and be able to say, hey, I'm good at this, I'm willing to learn. And once they get involved and people see them as a fellow player or a fellow rider, there's a lot more opportunity, and the walls definitely come down, and it definitely helps out the ladies who want to get involved. So that's a little bit of information about these constraints, a little bit about adaptions, and I hope you learned a little bit.